Welcome back, warrior. We are reading 1 Samuel chapter 18. We got to get this under control here. Okay, the preface chapter heading is Jonathan loves David. Saul sets David over his armies. David is honored by the people and Saul becomes jealous. David marries Michal, a daughter of Saul. Well, because that was what was promised to David. Or I guess that's what Saul promised to anybody who could beat Goliath, right? Which is definitely treating her as an object. But it seems like she at least got lucky and got a good guy named David. Oh, except then he was good until the Bathsheba incident, right? Okay, we will get there when we get there. Okay. Chapter 18, verse 1. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. So best friends, you know. And Saul took him that day and would let him go no more home to his father's house. And Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of a robe that was upon him and gave it to David and his garments, even to his sword and to his bow and to his girdle. So they were super besties, right? I really like the Read It, Live It. We're going to just read the Read It, Live It right now. And it says, right here, the soul of Jonathan was knit. Whoa, I accidentally stopped this. The soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David. And it says, this was a friendship of covenant, of loyalty and love. God writes deep friendships into holy stories. Be that kind of friend. Oh, I love that. Be that kind of friend. Okay. John W. Welch, Word Studies from the New Testament, he says, it has been said that according to the Israelite concept of covenant, one enters into a fellowship of the strongest order with another party, virtually becoming like that person himself, as in the covenant between Jonathan and David in Samuel chapter 18, verse 1, 3, and 4. So this covenant would have had opportunities to prove itself, for Jonathan was supposed to be the next to receive the throne, but David will actually receive it. But we will see that the covenant will hold strong and prove stronger than jealousy or want of power. Jonathan will not be like his father. This is what the Bible dictionary says of Jonathan. Jonathan's friendship for David, whom he might naturally have regarded as a rival, is one of the most unselfish incidents in Old Testament history. He was killed along with Saul on Mount Gilboa. David's lamentation over them is among the most beautiful of Bible poems. Oh, now that makes me sad that he died. Okay. So verse 5, and David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely, and Saul set him over the men of war. And he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass as they came, so my foot is killing me. And it came to pass as they came when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Saul is not going to appreciate that. So David then went, we're reading verse 8. We're not going to read commentary. I was going to read commentary, but we're going to skip it. We do need to read a lot of verses today. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. So he just was really jealous of him. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul. Okay, evil spirits do not come from God. Okay, let's remember. And he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him and was departed from Saul. Well, that's true, because Saul chose what he wanted, and he was not doing those things that a covenant keeper would do. So it makes sense that the Lord was not providing him that strength, because he wasn't seeking the Lord's strength anymore. Now he was listening to the Satan. Okay. And it sounded like David was playing the harp again. So, because that's like the thing that David would play, right? So verse 13. Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways. And the Lord was with him. Sorry, did I read that already? No. Okay. I'm like, this sounds like the exact same stuff. Okay, and let's see, 15. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, behold, okay, so that's a trait of a good leader, is when the leader is willing to do those things that he asks of you to do, or she asks of you to do. Like, I tell the kids, I wouldn't ask you to do something I'm not willing to do, right? And so, or that I couldn't do, or something. Because it's different when you're trying to train people, you know, versus like when you're hiring somebody for like a service that you don't know how to do legit. That's why they get paid. Anyway, so then it says, verse 17, and Saul said to David, behold, my elder daughter, Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, let not my hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, who am I? And what is my life or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass, at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel, the Meholathite, to wife. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly, and say, behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David. And David said, seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? And the servants of Saul told him, saying, on this manner spake David. And Saul said, thus shall ye say to David, the king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. It pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. That's how we want to say it. And the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave them in full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him. See, it's okay, Saul. Don't try to be a hater. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. Honestly, like, why is that a thing? Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass after they went forth that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by. Okay. So that is the end of that chapter, but I wanted to read a little bit more about this trap that Saul set for David. So Saul had another daughter named Michal that she loved, and she loved David. But not because Saul was happy his daughter loved a good man, but because he hoped to destroy David. But he was pleased with this situation. But Saul was like, okay, sure, I will let you marry her. But it was supposed to be a trap. And Michal could be a snare for David. And David would not be able to pay a dowry fit for a king. So Saul suggested a dowry that would bring David's death. That's what the whole I don't think I could do it, right? So Saul used his servants to lay out this plan so that it seemed more innocent. They were to secretly tell David that the king was super happy about this situation, and that they told him that the king did not want a dowry from David, but that all he wanted was 100 Philistine foreskins. Saul's true desire was not to have less Philistines on Israelite land, but to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines, which we already know David's experience there with this big Philistine. So it's like, whatevs. And clearly he's been conquering all kinds of lands and beating all kinds of armies because of the women singing. So now, so David arose and went, and he didn't bring 100 foreskins, but he brought 200. So David married Michal, and Saul totally knew that now, the Lord is totally with him, right? There's no denying it now. Saul now knows, but he was now more afraid of David, and was continuing to be his enemy. So Saul's jealousy of David will darken the rest of Saul's life, which is just sad, right? A quote from President Jeffrey R. Holland. He says, "There are going to be times in our lives when someone else gets an unexpected blessing or receives some special recognition. May I plead with us not to be hurt, and certainly not to feel envious. When good fortune comes to another person," when good fortune comes to another person, we are not diminished when someone else is added upon. We are not in a race against each other. The race we are really in is the race against sin. And surely envy is one of the most universal of those. End quote. Ooh, I always quote this one. I love this one from President Holland because it is so true. Even in brothers or sisters in our own family, somehow we think that we are supposed to become better than our siblings in some way. And it's no, we're not in a race against each other. We are in a race against sin. And that is, and the Lord's going to pit us against each other. And now Satan is going to pit us against each other. But the Lord didn't create us for that. And the Lord says that we need to love our neighbor. And Satan wants us to fight against each other, wants us to have envy against each other or for each other, and be jealous and all those things. And that's why he uses social media to try and torture us in this way, because we're going to see all kinds of people having more or less than us, having better days or worse days than us, having better figure or better looking or better hair or not so good hair, or so it's just that the Lord is just going to try and help us to overcome those things. But Satan is the one that's trying to pit us against each other so that we can become our own enemies against each other. And then when we're distracted because we are our own enemies, we can't see Satan. And that's what he wants. He wants us to be distracted by hating our sisters, hating our brothers, and that we don't see him and his true purpose of making us hate each other, right? Because if we hate each other, we can't love our neighbor as ourselves. We can't serve our neighbor because we're just having this everybody hates me attitude or whatever. Or everybody we hate attitude. So, hello, miss. So in the last study pages, there you go. We saw the rise of Saul and beginning of the fall of Saul and the beginning of the rise of David. Here are some notable things that happened in the chapters not covered in the Come Follow Me schedule. So in chapter 19, 22, and 23, we're going to see how Saul continues to seek David's life. And then Saul kills a priest that shows kindness to David, which is not nice to do that, right? Okay, so, and I already read our Read It, Live It. So until Samuel chapter 24, stay strong, warrior.